Hey, everybody, we're here for a new episode of Five for Talking. If you're a hockey fan, you're in the right place. I'm here with Caps, the captain of the show, and we're going to talk about pre-playoff NHL. We're just on the cusp of the playoffs. We will be mostly Leafs focused, but we're going to start off with some NHL stuff. We're going to talk about the Eastern Conference because I know you're very interested in this. The last place for the Eastern playoffs is like a three-team battle right now. How do you feel?
I mean, it's going to go down to the wire. I mean,
That's actually a
it's a
four-team battle.
14 battle. 14
Four-team
battle.
battle.
Like it's Detroit, Pittsburgh, Washington, and Philly. Philly's the only one of those teams that has played more games.
They're also
I
not going to
believe.
make it. They're playing like trash.
I mean,
They're on a two-gamer right now, but they've been the worst team of those five teams, I think, of those four
yeah,
teams.
Pittsburgh had a huge chance to make a dent last night, but they lost to Boston. So, you know, they're down a point to those three teams. It's looking to be Washington, but there's still a couple games left. I don't know who's going to come out. I don't know who's going to come out of it. So, what do you think on that?
Sorry. I don't know who I would say is going to come out, but the way that it's lined up right now seems pretty odd. It doesn't really make sense the way the playoffs are separated because they all have the same amount of points, except Pittsburgh. So I don't know how they decided that Washington is the team. Digressing from the point, I think it's probably going to be Washington. I think on paper the best team of all those teams is maybe Pittsburgh, but their goaltending is not good. I'm not saying Washington has like fantastic goalies, but I just feel like Washington is a pretty decent team, and they've been hovering around the playoff spot the whole season, right? Whereas Detroit has been up and down. Philadelphia is not looking good in the last like 2 months, like not at all. And Pittsburgh has been pretty low for most of the season in the standings. Is that okay? Um,
Well, when we're going into the playoffs, which one of those teams gives the Rangers a hard time?
Pittsburgh. Philadelphia's not giving anyone a hard time. If the Islanders, who are or Tampa Bay, who are the two lowest point teams in the playoffs, other than the spot that they're fighting for, will beat Philadelphia. So Philadelphia is irrelevant at this point in my eyes. Their roster's not that great. They're still really young. They don't have solid goaltending. I know they got that Russian guy back. I can't remember his name, Fedotov or something. Um, but yeah, the Corey Hart thing screwed that up, but that's on him. He's an idiot. Uh,
Sorry, did you say Corey?
sorry, you know what I meant. Sunglasses at night. Anyways, Carey Price. All right. Back to my point. Who's distractor? I don't think Detroit makes noise in the playoffs. They are a decently built team. Um, they
They're not
do
ready.
they do have that Tampa Bay build to them, which is obvious because it's built by Tampa Bay guy, the architect of the Tampa Bay team, Steven Yzerman.
They don't have a goalie.
No, they don't, but they do have a good build, but they will not
Yeah,
go anywhere.
yeah, they're
Um,
still a couple years away.
Pittsburgh has the best team on paper, but they're so poorly constructed. Like I know it's Dubas's first year there, and we all know my thoughts on Dubas, but I'm not even going to bring that to the table. I'm just going to say he got left in an awkward situation, and he did what he could with the team, and it ended up making a really wishy-washy mishmash of players that aren't like playing that well together. They've been great in the last 15 games, but
I mean, you cannot deny what Crosby's been doing. It's more so Crosby. He's just willing himself to just take charge and just get this team possibly into the playoffs. And
he's
then,
been playing great.
because of what he's been doing, now you're starting the conversation of MVP. It's not going to happen, but it's like you cannot deny what he's been doing for the last little bit,
So
and
my
it's
question
pretty
to
cool.
you, my question to you. So I thought a lot about this. We did the MVP video recently. So I genuinely thought about it. If MVP in most leagues is the best player, football is up in the air because football a lot of times just picks a quarterback, not necessarily the best player. However, hockey seems to just go with whoever's at the top of the points board, even though there's already a trophy for that. And not necessarily in that sense exactly, because I know the NBA does that a lot too, but I feel like there's already a trophy that exists for the most points. Like, is Nathan McKinnon the best player in the league this year? Like, is he the MVP of the
He's
league?
got my vote. He's got my
I
vote.
understand that, but like, if let's say Pittsburgh squeaks into the playoffs here on Crosby's back and gets out of the first round, is Crosby the MVP?
No,
Especially if Kucherov, McKinnon, and McDavid don't win the cup.
that's just my criteria. I don't know what the actual criteria is for the league because I mean you touched on what the NBA
It's a
does. The NBA,
voting situation.
it's yeah, it is a voting situation, but in the NBA, it's not the person that has the most points. It's the person that's got it's the person that's most valuable to their team. But um, with hockey, like in a few years ago, Matthews won the MVP, but he wasn't even close to having the most points. He just had the most goals. Does and to be honest, the team didn't go anywhere in the playoffs. So I don't really understand the criteria. I have my own criteria in my head, and to me, McKinnon's is the MVP, just based on the fact that what he has been able to do with this team. Mind you, McCarr and Rantanen are on the team, but you know, it's to me, it's he's with Langeskog out, their captain. It seems as though he's taken over the leadership of the team, and he's kind of like led them into one hell of a position going into the playoffs. Um, to me, when I'm looking at Kucherov, he's just not the leader of the team. Doesn't necessarily translate into the MVP. It's just I just feel as though that is part of the criteria that he's the leader of the team slash points leader is to me is the MVP. Not sure if that makes sense, but that's just my thought process in the whole thing. Because to me, when I'm looking at Tampa Bay, Stamkos is still the leader. Coach Kucherov is the points leader, but that's just my thought process. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's just me.
I think, and I like I said before when we talked about this, I can't pretend like Nathan McKinnon is not having a really good season, maybe the best player in the league, deserving of MVP. But I can't help but the thought process of without Kucherov, Tampa Bay's not even in the playoffs, I don't think. Um, you can attribute a lot of their success to the fact that the second half of the Eastern Conference is very weak. I think the West isn't better than the East, but the West is more balanced. The East is like the eight teams in the playoffs, or the seven out of the eight teams in the playoffs are really good teams, and then everyone else is shit. Um, excuse my French there, but I do think there's still a pretty good argument you can make for like Pasternak, and I mean Vasilevsky has been pretty good since he's come back. I don't think he could be MVP. At least now he's no Dominic Hasek, the greatest goalie of all time, but that is neither here nor there. I just find it weird. So where I was going with this conversation is I want to open this up because you made a good point, and I'm not arguing who's better here. I just want your thought process on this because this has been all over the internet. Okay, Matthews won an MVP, correct? Because of having a lot of goals, not because of being the best player in the league, not because of his team was the best or anything like that. What's more impressive to you, 100 assists or 70 goals? because the comments I see, most of them on these posts are not logic based. They're just I don't like the Leafs, so it's obviously Connor McDavid. And I think there should be more digging into it. 100 assists is very impressive to me. I do think 70 goals is more impressive. However, I don't care either way because if you don't win a cup, who gives a shit?
which is my thought process too. I mean, Kucherov is a couple assists away from 100 assists as well. Um,
Yes, but no one's talking about it because he's not Connor McDavid.
like, with the exception of us.
But I mean,
uh,
but that's our
I
what we
get your point.
do,
I
right?
just know. I get your point. I get your point.
He's
I get
like
your
it's
point.
like having Steph Curry in the NBA. He just gets more attention because he's Steph Curry. Nobody cares that another player is doing just as good as him.
Yeah. That's a hard question to answer. I mean, I didn't get a chance to think about that. Um, you know, I mean, I look at Matthews and he's 70 goals, or he's closing in on 70 goals, but he's he only has like 40 assists.
Yeah, but he
You
still
know what
has
I
a
mean?
100-point season on top of that 70 goals, which is
Yeah,
impressive.
yeah. I mean,
I'm not
I
sticking up
said it
for
from the
Matthews
beginning.
here.
I've said it from the beginning. I don't think Matthews deserves the MVP, whether he reaches 70 goals or not.
Absolutely, you're correct.
Um,
I'm just saying to add to people's
75 is a
argument,
little more. 75 is a little more impressive, but to me, 70 goals. No, at
he
this
won an
point,
MVP goal based,
yeah.
right? And then
Um,
people are trying to say that 100 assists because it's only happened or only so many people have done it in history. But it, to my eyes, especially when you break it down, and this is not a Matthews versus McDavid thing. This is just the number versus the raw number. I do think 70 goals is more impressive. But like I said, I do also think who cares? If you get 375 points in a year and you don't win the cup, what does that matter? You're a waste of space. So it's just like to do that, it's crazy to me. Like when Gretzky was putting up those ridiculous numbers, he won cups.
yes. I mean, yeah, definitely early on in his career, he did win cups, putting up impressive points. He had one hell of a team with him. Um,
It's not team based. We're only talking this. I
yeah, I know,
just
but you cannot deny like that. That was a
oh,
freaking.
that was an
That
amazing
was a
team.
really good team.
That was an amazing team.
Yeah. But I'm with you, man. I mean, I'm not overly concerned about him reaching 70 goals. Just to um, have that historic season. At this point, I'm not even concerned with that. I want to see a cup. I want to
Yeah.
see success in the playoffs, and going back to what we were discussing before, I honestly think part of the criteria of who deserves the MVP is what you do in the playoffs as well. Um, I know you got the Conn Smythe Trophy, but the fact is that did I just say Conn Smythe? Anyway, uh, my point is that the criteria should also be based on what you do in the playoffs as well.
I think so too.
That's
I think that's exactly how it should be done. Like the playoffs should count. I know there is a playoff, like, and I don't know if the NHL, I've never actually looked into this. I don't know if you know, but the Conn Smythe, is that finals MVP like how basketball is his finals MVP, or is it for the MVP of the entire playoffs?
Sorry, say that again.
The Conn Smythe, is it only a finals MVP or is it the player who was the MVP for the entire playoffs
It's for the
of the
Stanley
two
Cup
teams?
playoffs. Yeah, I was originally correct.
Yeah. Because in NBA they only award you the MVP for whatever you did in the finals, the
Yeah,
last
yeah,
round.
yeah.
Anyways, we're not talking about basketball. I think Dallas, shout out to Dallas having a good season. They're going to be pretty screwed over here as it looks like they're going to end up facing Vegas in the first round, which is not where you want to end up after having such a good season, which I think this playoff format is so stupid. Um, like I don't
I
know.
mean, I was never a fan of this playoff format. I don't care what anybody thinks. You can call me a Maple Leaf fan crybaby when it comes to, the fact that they only face Tampa, Boston, and Florida every year. But the fact of the matter is that I always was, you know, partial to the old playoff format, which is 1-8, and whoever you face, 1-8. That's it. Doesn't matter what division you're in. That's who you should be facing. It makes the playoffs that much more interesting. But this new playoff format sucks, and I'm pretty sure there are other teams that don't like it either. So
Yeah.
you know,
I
it's just
also, just for like, to look at it like from an all around aspect. Actually, you know what? I think Dallas. Oh yeah, Dallas is gonna get them right now. That's pretty sucky. Sorry. Uh the Pacific playoffs is like pretty wishy-washy. I don't know if you've seen it. Vancouver is like a shell of the team that they were at their peak of the season. The LA Kings are nothing great right now. The Predators are not a top elite team. They're good. And the Oilers are like, you don't know what's going to happen with the Oilers. So those teams are going to be a lucky team is going to come out of that box
well,
because
McDavid is injured, so he'll be back
yeah.
soon. But
But
I
that
for Vancouver, they need Demko back. That's the
and he
key.
might not come back.
And he might not come back, but that's the key for him. If Demko doesn't come back, I mean, yes, you made the playoffs again. You've become relevant, but it'll be a failure of a season if they're not able to be successful without Demko. Because
I don't think they'll beat Nashville. I'm going to be honest with you.
hey,
Um
we shall see for the tier list
yeah, tier
coming up
list will
very
be
very
next
soon.
weekend, so look out for that. Okay, let's talk Leafs so we don't drag this episode out till next week.
We're gonna convince Bargo to come and do the tier list too.
We're gonna have to. Um, 69 is the number. 69, good number.
Okay, you ready?
Hmm.
I don't give a shit. I
Remember when
don't
I said that
care.
before? If you
I,
don't
I,
win a cup, I
yeah,
don't care if you score a
yeah.
thousand goals.
I'll repeat what I said last week. I'll say it again this week. I don't even want him playing the last two games. I don't, and because I'm afraid that he almost got hurt last game. He ran into the
Into the
boards, and I'm like,
boards.
oh my god, this guy's got a concussion. All right. Here's my problem, and this is probably like one of the few times I actually agree with Keith, and I can't believe I just said that, but I'm going to say it.
I'm really upset with you for saying that.
Well, hear me out. They feed him the puck so much that it's turning them into a pretty bad team because they want this guy to reach that achievement, that accomplishment so bad that everything else that's a part of their game is like they're just like getting bad at it.
The one, the
Horrible
one,
defensively. They like they're not playing as they're just trying to feed him the puck so he can get to
no,
70.
I agree. And it's bad enough you already have Morgan Riley on your team, which is a negative no matter how you look at it, in my eyes. So you're already weak in that aspect. But they at least can't move up or down right now. But staying healthy is important. So I don't really care if they keep feeding Matthews. The reason I don't like that they keep feeding Matthews is because he's a target.
And so are the other guys.
He just always has the puck. So they know that, oh, the pass is coming to Matthews. I'm going to level this guy as soon as he gets the puck.
Yeah, like it's like the only way that he could possibly score at this point is just like one of those dirty, like those like garbage goals,
Dude,
like in
the
front
guy
of the net.
scores every game, so I don't know what you're on about.
Hey man, I'm just saying I don't want to see the guy get hurt
No, we don't
and
need to
then
see it.
fucking
And it's
end
bad
up
enough.
like
We
yeah.
watched, and I'm sorry for this to happen because I'd love for him to just get his cup. But Connor McDavid has been run ragged by the Oilers. He played through injuries. They're pushing him too hard, and playoff time is going to come around, and he's not going to be good to go.
Um, I mean, I could see that. I could see the fact that he's been pushing himself. There was a couple of lingering injuries that he had this year that he played through. I just hope that he comes back healthy. But, like I'm looking at last game in terms of the Leafs, they lost Bobby McMahon. They McCabe took a puck off the face, um, blocking a shot. Like, is that really necessary to do at this point? At this point of the season, but and I hated the fact that they played Samsonov in the last couple of games. Like, I didn't want him to play. I know you
He's
wanted to
playing
play
on
at least a
Tuesday.
couple. Well, he shouldn't. Like, I don't
We no
get
no.
this
I
guy.
wanted him to play until the last 3 games, which we're in, and they let him play, and he's playing again.
Stupid, because like the fact is that the last couple of games, at least haven't been trying, and they're letting him hang. Just just the fact that they're not playing well in front of him, and now you're going to start messing with his confidence. You know what I mean? You don't need that at that point. Just play Wall. Play Wall. Let him play, and don't worry about Samsonov. He should be fine for game one. Like, I don't agree with playing Samsonov. I think you're just messing with the guy's head. What's going to happen if next game he plays and he lets in about 4 goals again in the first fucking period, like he did last night's game? It's just you're messing with the guy's head, man. I don't agree with this at all. Anyway,
The kid's
I
spicy.
digress.
He's got some hot takes. I like it. But okay, that aside, I agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. You called it. Get Murray some playtime. Murray is now playing in the AHL. Your favorite goalie, Matthew Broderick Murray.
Anyone's my favorite goalie if they can bring success to this team. I don't give a shit
Yeah.
who he is.
I'm running with it. And like we talked about off air, that maybe the way that they're running it, the thought process is let Murray get AHL ready and then bring him up during the playoffs and maybe send Wall back down and run with Jones, Wall, and or Jones, Murray, and Samsonov
Yeah,
for
I don't know
experience
what the
sake.
long term plan is. I'm not sure. That's that it could happen. Who knows? Um, he's got. I'll tell you this much: he's got a lot of decisions to make. The lines, the pairings, the goalies. I think the only thing that's absolute at this point is the fact that Samsonov is a starter in game one. I don't even know what the lines are going to be at this point because, um, I it just I'm uncomfortable with Holmberg being a third line center. Um, and at times he's experimenting with his super line with Nylander, Tavares, and Marner. And I'm sorry, everybody thinks that they're out shooting the opposition. Okay, that's great. They're not scoring, but that's great. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know. I don't get it sometimes. It's just I'm seeing different. Um, but yeah, he's got some serious decisions to make. I mean, TJ Brody played like crap last night, and I'm uncomfortable being having him as part of a pairing going into the playoffs. So he's got decisions to make, and I sorry for prolonging this, but that's just how I feel.
Give me your pairings for the playoffs.
My pairings for the playoffs, if healthy, Labushkin, Riley, Edmondson, Lilligren, and Benoit and McCabe. Those are my pairings going into the playoffs.
Who's your sixth
TJ
guy,
Brody
Brody
is on.
or
TJ Brody is sitting in the press box. Sorry, go ahead.
I said who's gonna be your extra guy? I said sixth guy. Who's gonna be your seventh guy? But you just said Brody will be in the box, so it's obviously not gonna be Brody.
Brody is the extra guy.
No, Brody's the extra guy. You're not gonna go with the old man
Brody's the extra guy.
over Giordano in the playoffs.
I don't see. That's a great question, and I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. It
You might
depends.
be right.
I don't even know if I'm comfortable having Giordano play big minutes. Like it depends on who's injured. Um, but I do know one thing is that Keith should not, have a certain pairing play over 22 minutes. He should try and make them as even as possible and roll out 3 pairings and just see what happens. That's just my opinion. That's and I got my own sort of opinion on what the line should be, but that's going to take a while.
All right. Well, I think they should just spread out the love on the lines.
And that's what they should do, and I agree with that. I don't think Marner and Tavares should be a pair should be on the same line. That's just my opinion.
That's fair. And I've said that from the beginning. They're both facilitators. Why would you have two passing players on the same line? It doesn't make sense.
No, I understand. You know what? Might as well get into it. I understand the chemistry with Domi and Matthews, but I don't think they should be on the same line. Just based on the centers, I think Domi should be a second line center with Bertuzzi and Nylander on the same line. I think Marner, Matthews, and whoever that winger is should be on the first line, and the third line should be Tavares at center with it could be McMahon and I don't know Jan Krok or whatever. I don't know, but to me, Tavares should be the third line center, and just like you said, spread the love. That's how I feel. That was the lineup before people started getting injured, and they were pretty good. But it's just the fact is that I think you need Domi to play center at this point just to get that option. But anyway, I think we
Well, fair enough. I think that's a good episode. Thank you for watching. Let us know what you think about the Leafs in the comments. And don't be scared to tell me that I'm stupid.